So much good conversation happening. Hello and welcome everyone to Philanthropy Day 2019. So whether you are a nonprofit staffer, whether you're a board member, whether you're a volunteer, whether you're a donor, whether you're a community partner, whether you're from the local government, whether you're from local business, the university, or PVCC, we are so glad to welcome you here today. My name is Christine Nardi. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Nonprofit Excellence, mostly known as CNE.
And my name is Justin Reed, and I'm excited to be the co-chair of this year's Philanthropy Day Host Committee. I'm also a proud CNE board member. And I'm especially excited to have Secretary Jones as our keynote today because we're from the same area. He grew up out in rural Lunenburg County, and I'm from the big city, Farmville, Virginia. So compared to Lunenburg, it's the big city. But many of you may have noticed the flashlights on your table. Okay, so some of you were here last year. So we had a power outage, but we are back and we are overprepared. So
why didn't everybody go ahead and grab your flashlight? We know you want to. Go ahead and grab your flashlight. Now let's try something. On the count of 3. Now remember, on the count of 3, I see somebody over there already got the flashlight on. On the count of 3, let's all turn on our flashlights and see how many points of light we can create. Are you ready? Oh. Really?
On the count of 3.
Really? This is so exciting. Okay, let's try it. Join me. 1, 2, 3.
This is nice.
That's nice.
Good.
It's nice.
All right, you got it out of your system. That's good.
That was amazing. Thank you all. Thank you all for lighting the way to this year's community celebration of giving. Each year, we come together to celebrate and recognize the philanthropy and the philanthropists in all of us, because philanthropy changes lives for the better. Philanthropy helps us build vibrant, inclusive, and ultimately more resilient communities. And when we talk about Philanthropy Day, we of course are talking about the financial gifts that you give into the community. But we're also talking about the time and the talent you give to your neighbors in need, to your schools or to your places of worship, and also to nonprofits large and small across the community who are working hard to build a community of opportunity for all.
Now at CNE, we assist and strengthen nonprofits and the people who power them. We bring a nonprofit voice to community decision-making, and we help nonprofit community partners engage effectively with the sector. Now, a major part of my work at Virginia Humanities is supporting cultural and educational organizations all across Virginia. And I see a lot of interesting things as I do this work. But one of the things that I'm constantly amazed and surprised by are the number of communities who look to our CNE for support, for assistance, for ideas, and for inspiration.
So our communities face real challenges. That's a fact. And we all continue to have very hard work to do. But today we come together to be re-energized, to be re-inspired, and to renew our commitment to building a community of opportunity for all.
Now, in just the last year, we've witnessed the launch of the new Equity Center at UVA and an Office of Equity and Inclusion in the city schools and in our county government. We've witnessed major commitments from our local governments to carbon neutrality and to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. And we've also witnessed an increase in the base wage for university employees and contract workers.
That deserves a round of applause.
And that's not all. We've asked 3 community partners who are here today to share with us a few of their own community updates that inspire and energize them.
Hello, everyone. I'm over here. I am Brennan Gould, President and CEO of the Community Foundation serving the greater Charlottesville area. And I want to just thank CNE and Christine and the board for this event. It's always such a wonderful celebration of philanthropy and of community generosity. There are a couple things I wanted to share that I'm particularly excited about going on in our region. The first, I think many of you know that President Jim Ryan of the University of Virginia is particularly interested in finding ways that the university and the community can both strengthen their relationship and really partner in thoughtful ways that make our region just an opportunity for more people to thrive and to really be engaged in the region. And some of you know, there was a working group set up by President Ryan last fall, and this fall, after the work of that group concluded, there is now a President's Council on University and Community Partnership that is particularly interested in advancing the work to create strengthened partnerships in the areas of pathways and promotion, local economy, early childhood education, and attainable and affordable housing. Not to, really there to advance and the current work that's going on and really add to and contribute to more work done in partnership. The other thing that I'm really excited about are the many organizations, both by number and by different type of organization, that are doing community work and particularly interested in deepening their understanding and commitment to equity and to centering their work in equity. And that really is rooted in an understanding that we all experience our community differently. And that part of our expression of generosity and compassion and empathy really is our willingness to see one another in our full context and be much more nuanced and targeted in the ways that we invest and support our shared well-being. So thank you. Those are things that I'm excited by.
Thank you, Brennan.
So I'm Ravi Rispetto with the United Way, and I too want to thank Christine for her leadership in the community and bringing us together in celebration of community. It's been a special year for me. I appreciate Brennan, and I know Elizabeth will speaking from the chamber. We've had a wonderful year of coming together and collaborating. And I'm really excited about Unity Days, which was our first annual coming together in the community of Charlottesville to sort of honor people and to support economic and racial justice. And this was the first time we'd had this opportunity to bring people together in this way. And the themes were really important for our community. We talked about things like the history of race relations and breaking down institutions of oppression, honoring community and neighborhood leaders for making change. And then there was many days of activities around remembrance of August 2017 that took place. And this was important for United Way because we got to be a part of our community table conversations. And I want to honor UVA President Jim Ryan for being such an active participant in conversation and bridging community, especially with his new 10-year strategic initiative with the Good Neighbors, which is really about bridging to community and creating community change. So we're in a special time and place right now, and I couldn't be more honored to be a part of this leadership group. So thank you.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm over here in this corner. My name's Elizabeth Cromwell. I'm the president and CEO of the Charlottesville Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I, too, want to echo the thoughts of my two colleagues. It's great to be here. It's going to be a great day. And I just kind of wanted to say a comment about being a newbie in town. So I've been living here for just about a year now. And I want to take this opportunity to thank this community for having open hearts and open minds and bringing people like myself into the conversation, whether you're from here or whether you've been here for a long time or a short time. Several very meaningful personal and professional experiences for me where I saw the positive power of connection in this community among people who don't know each other. Happened 3 times I can remember over the past year. Once was at the community table event that I attended that the United Way held, and that was full of challenging discussions and strong camaraderie at the end of the evening. The second one was my invitation to attend the groundwater training 2-day workshop, and along with an additional day of that program as well, put together by the Racial Equity Institute. I was invited to that by the Piedmont Housing Alliance And I'm very grateful to have learned and been a part of that experience. And then the third one, on a much lighter note, was the Festi, which was a music festival that came to Ix Park for the first time this year. It was full of discovery and friendship with people who did not know each other. And so I just want to say thank you to this community for building positive experiences that build bridges between the old and the new in this very important time. Thanks.
I just want to say a special thank you to Brennan and Ravi and Elizabeth and to your organizations for your amazing community building work.
Now we'd like for all of you to think of someone in our community or something that has inspired you or made you feel hopeful this past year. Take a moment to think. All right, and now we want you to turn and share with your neighbor. You have 30 seconds. Go.
It's going to be longer than 10 minutes, but I think it's okay. We'll just shorten lunch. We're almost there.
I'm not actually keeping time. I wasn't actually keeping time. I should.
You better do it. Your voice is louder.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, everyone, one last thing we want to say. We have a few thank yous we want to make sure we take care of.
Thank you, everyone. Now, we promise we won't make you report out, but we really appreciate the good energy and the goodwill in this room this year and every year. We wouldn't be Philanthropy Day and we wouldn't be philanthropists if we didn't just take a moment to celebrate the people in this room who made this community celebration possible. So I'd love to give them a quick shout out, and if you would join me in a round of applause once I'm finished. All right, here goes. A great big thank you to Wells Fargo, to the Remora Foundation, to Khaki Brooks and George Beller, our founder, Wendy Brown, and the many philanthropists in the room who support CNE and this community celebration every year, and who you can learn more about in the program. Thank you to our amazing Philanthropy Day host committee who put the community in this community celebration. Thank you also to CNE board members past and present for your shared leadership and your commitment to service. And finally, a great big thank you to the good team at CNE. Katie, Cindy, Andrew, Mary Davis, Jen, Aline, Ian, and Ryan for making the CNE mission come to life and for doing it with humor and humility. How about a round of applause for that?
All right, so finally, we want to say a special thank you to the PAST Foundation in Warrington and the Community Foundation of the Central Blue Ridge in Stanton, two of our strategic partners across the state, for being part of this celebration today. And a warm welcome to our local elected officials here who are at the center of so much community building work. We have City Councilors Heather Hill, Kathy Galvin, and soon-to-be Councilors Lloyd Snook, Sina McGill, and Michael Payne, as well as Albemarle County Supervisors Diantha McKeel and Rick Randolph, and our outgoing delegate, David Toscano. Thank you all for your service.
So I have the best news yet, and that is we're going to leave you to your luncheon conversation. We'll be back shortly to introduce the guest speaker. Thank you again, everyone.
Hi there. My name is Holly Hatcher. I'm co-chair for the second year of CNE's Philanthropy Day Host Committee. It is very nice to see you all this year, literally. I am grateful to co-chair with Justin Reed and the rest of the host committee, and I'm honored to stand here and witness your beautiful faces. There's a lot to celebrate this year, including UVA's renewed commitment to authentic community partnership and all that comes with it. To reflect that, we've invited Jim Murray, UVA's Rector of the Board of Visitors, to introduce Maurice Jones, who, in addition to his work with the Local Initiative Support Corporation, also known as LISC, also sits on the UVA Board of Visitors. We're so pleased that he accepted the invite. Please join me in welcoming Jim Murray, a gift to the Commonwealth in his own right, to the stage.
Thank you, Holly, and thank you, Aline, Kaki, Christine, Justin. It's an honor to be here today. Philanthropy Day is really one of the most important days on the calendar for our community. It's the one day of the year we all get together and remind each other of shared values. Our shared common values for equity, resilience, justice, stewardship of our resources, those things that bind us as a community. So it's a very important day, and it's an honor for me because, as Brennan reminded us, under the leadership of President Ryan, the University of Virginia is trying to play a new role in how we deal with the community. We've redoubled our efforts to be a partner with the rest of you in this community. UVA is not only the largest employer in the community, but UVA is managed and sustained by local citizens. It is a local organization. So I'm really proud that we have invited a representative of the Board of Visitors, a member of the Board of Visitors, to speak today about his experience with community building, those things that strengthen the bonds between UVA and this community. So Maurice Jones received a bachelor's degree in political science from Hampton-Sydney College and attended Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar. Big deal. There he received a master's of philosophy in international relations, and he later received his law degree from UVA. In 2016, Mr. Jones, since 2016, Mr. Jones has been the president of Local Initiative Support Corporation, or LISC. It's a leading nonprofit that invests in struggling communities around America. Prior to heading LISC, Maurice served as the Virginia Secretary of Commerce and Trade under Governor Terry McAuliffe. Previously, he had served as Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in the Obama administration. And as the second most senior official at HUD, Mr. Jones managed the department's day-to-day operations, the annual operating budget, and 8,900 employees. Prior to HUD, Maurice was president of Pilot Media, the largest print and digital organization in Hampton Roads, Virginia. He joined Landmark Media Enterprises, the owner of Pilot Media, in 2005. He initially oversaw pieces of a large newspaper publishing group, and he eventually became the president and publisher of the Virginia Pilot newspaper. Mr. Jones has also served as commissioner of the Virginia Department of Social Services and deputy chief of staff to then Virginia Governor Mark Warner, which is where I first met him, Mark and I being business partners at the time. And he's been in the U.S. Department of Treasury under the Clinton administration. Mr. Jones also worked at the law firm of Hunton & Williams and was a partner at Venture Philanthropy Partners, a firm that invests in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area to assist low-income children. So Woodrow Wilson spoke of a roll of honor in America. He said, "The roll of honor consists of the names of men and women who have squared their conduct by ideals of duty." Maurice Jones is a man who spent much of his career following ideals of duty, and so he justly belongs in America's roll of honor. Please welcome Maurice Jones.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I thought there were more than just me and Jim in here, right? That's a very kind introduction, and I should just sit down right now. You're a handsome crowd, and actually, I need a timekeeper. At 30 minutes, you're going to keep me out of trouble? Okay. Because, I have 2 hours of remarks here. I got to condense them into 30 minutes. If my grandfather had heard that introduction, who raised me in Lunenburg County, by the way, we used to come over and beat up on the Prince Edward guys all the time. That was a joke. If my grandfather had heard that, he would say, boy, you can't keep a job. That would be, so it just depends on where you are as to whether that's impressive. He would just say, you just go out and get in that tobacco field and you'll be all right. So it's nice to be with you. And I'm really happy to be with you on Philanthropy Day. I want to congratulate the community and I want to celebrate with you. I want to thank Christine and team for inviting me here. I want to tell you a little bit about my story because I think it's relevant to Philanthropy Day. I was born and raised in Kinbridge, Virginia. Who knows what Kinbridge is besides Justin? You can't say. All right, well, there's enough for almost a basketball team in that crowd. We got a guard over here. Okay, we're good. So Kinbridge is a town of about 1,200 people in Southside Virginia. It is to the east of Farmville, about 40 minutes. It was the heart of tobacco-producing Virginia. I was a tobacco farmer for the first 25 years of my life. Inspired me to go to college. I tell people all the time, you want to inspire children to go to college? I got the recipe. I was raised by grandparents there, though, and my grandfather went to school for 6 years in a barn about a mile away from our house. And my grandmother ended up going to school and graduating from the Lunenburg Colored Technical School because she lived in town, and so she could walk to school. My grandfather had to go out and work because at that time, the state of Virginia was not going to send a bus 10 miles to pick up a colored child, to take that child to the colored school even, right? They were the folks who raised me. I was 3 months old when I went to live with them, and they poured their heart and soul and love into me. And I owe them everything that I have. They were my first and most fundamentally transformative experience with philanthropy. My grandmother tells the story that my grandfather was sick, went to the doctor, and came out of the doctor's office, and my grandmother said, "What's wrong with James, my grandfather?" And my grandfather's doctor said, "Nothing that getting that grandchild back in the house won't cure." So she says that I ended up with them because my grandfather got sick, and the only way he was going to get well was to live with them. Now, I like that story. But as we say in the country, it ain't so. My parents went off to get careers in urban Virginia at that time, and the marriage didn't work out. And so, as happens all across the country now, grandparents stepped in and raised me. That was number one. When I was in the 8th grade, in junior high school, we used to call it in Lunenburg, I was in a debate contest. And after the debate, my 8th grade science teacher ran up to me, and she had this gentleman with her. And she said, I want to introduce you to Senator Edmonds. Senator Edmonds was the local state senator for Lunenburg County at that time. And she says to me, and I'm an 8th grade country boy, she says, the senator and I were just discussing that it would be a great idea if you were a page in the General Assembly. My 8th grade science teacher. Well, I'm processing through my experience. The only pages I knew were in books. And so I looked at her, and I looked at the senator, and Jim Ryan's not here, right? I did one of those wait whats that he talks about. It's like, what? A page? At that point, my science teacher knew exactly what was going on, that I had no clue what she was talking about. Fast forward, in January of that year, I was a page in the General Assembly. And it changed my life. I saw these senators and these members of the House of Delegates, all of whom had law degrees practically. And I can talk to you about that a little later. But doing good stuff for the most part. Certainly in a position to be helpful for folks. And as an 8th grader, I formed the aspiration to go to law school, which in Cambridge, Virginia, is not what people aspire to do. I came home after this experience that was completely enabled by my 8th grade science teacher, who I know worried that senator to death. The only reason why he did it is he didn't want to hear from her anymore. Had nothing to do with it. The dude hadn't seen me ever before. So I knew it had nothing to do with me. I'm going to come back to that science teacher. But she changed my life. No question about it. In fact, if you move forward, I went on and went back to the General Assembly and served a second time, again, because of this experience with the senator and my teacher. And when it got to the 12th grade, I'll never forget, I was a football player, and one afternoon, I'm walking out to football practice. That 8th grade science teacher confronts me as I'm walking she's no longer a teacher at this point. She's got a little store in town, and she looks at me and she says, young man, well, that was my first clue. She says, have you applied to college yet? I said, no, ma'am, but I'm going to. She says, you're right. You're going to today. She snatches up, now I'm the quarterback of the state champion football school. She snatches me up and takes me to my coach. She says, he's not coming to practice today. Coach looks at her, looks at me, looks at her. He goes, yep, I don't think he is. And we go off to her little shop in town, and we start applying to colleges. She says, where do you want to go? I said, Georgetown. She says, why do you want to go to Georgetown? I said, they got a great basketball team. She said, what's your second choice? And I said, well, okay, how about the College of William and Mary? Good school, state school, maybe I can get in. She says, okay. She says, you got to pick a third one. And I was racking my brain. I said, well, what do you think? She looks at me, she says, how about Hampton-Sydney College? And I said, well, tell me about it. She says, well, it's 40 minutes away. It's all male. I said, what's your other choice? She says, no, you need to apply to Hampton-Sydney College. It is a great place for you. And so I did. She literally sat with me for days as I applied to college. No one in my family had applied to college. I didn't know what applying to college was like. I didn't know you could waive the fees. I knew none of this. She walked me through it, right? No, she wasn't my guidance counselor. She wasn't even the teacher anymore. Well, I got into Hampton-Sydney, I got into Georgetown, I got into William and Mary. And a week before I had to say yay to one of them, and I was prepared to say yay to the College of William and Mary. By the way, I didn't apply to UVA, that's another story. But the story gets better later. I get a call from a professor at Hampton-Sydney College, Bob Rogers, whose daughter works at UVA now, who was my law school classmate. I get a call and he says, we'd like to interview you for a scholarship. Would you be interested? I mean, seriously? Yes, I said, I'd be interested. And so I go up and interview for the scholarship. I interview for the scholarship. I realize that I hadn't asked, how much will the scholarship pay if I get it? All right, and so at the very end, they asked me, well, do you have questions? I said, how much will the scholarship pay? And the professor looks at me and looks around, he goes, well, it will pay your entire need. I said, do you know what my need is? He says, you will have 4 years of a full scholarship. Well, I'm glad I didn't know that beforehand. I would have been completely terrified. I go home that night, I tell my grandfather and grandmother, I said, if I win this thing, it's a free ride to Hampton-Sydney. Grandfather says, oh yeah, sure, boy. Sure. I'm gonna tell you about him in a little bit too. I get a call that night where my grandmother and grandfather and I are sitting in the living room. It's Bob Rogers. He says, we'd like to offer you this scholarship. Now, we'll give you some time to think about it. I said, I just thought about it. So that's how I ended up at Hampton-Sydney College. Now, how I really ended up at Hampton-Sydney College was that 8th grade science teacher got on the phone and told Hampton-Sydney, everybody she could talk to, that you need to find a way to help this guy pay for college. Otherwise, they wouldn't have even known about me other than the admissions department. And Bob Rogers, who had a heart for Prince Edward and Lunenburg, said, yep, we're gonna give this guy an interview. That 8th grade science teacher was amazing. Changed my life. So I went off to Hampton-Sydney College, and 4 years later, I get a note from my college president who says, come sit with me. And I thought, oh no, what have I done now? I'm getting called to the principal's office. He says, I want you to apply for a Rhodes Scholarship. I said, I'm going to law school. He said, law school will be here when you get back. I go off to Richmond because I get an interview because he writes a recommendation that must have been full of a lot of untruths. But it got me an interview. And guess who I stayed with in Richmond? The 8th grade science teacher. She had moved to Richmond. And that's who I stayed with. She changed my life. Lastly, I'm in Oxford, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. I know I want to go to law school, but my dream was to go to Harvard Law School. So I go up and visit. I got into Harvard. It was a big deal for a Lunenburg boy. I get into Harvard, I go up, but I have a terrible experience at Harvard. And you know what? In this crowd, I can say it. They were so arrogant, you just wouldn't believe it. I mean, it was like somebody gave them a memo, be arrogant. And everybody followed. But at the very end, I had gotten this scholarship from UVA Law because of a philanthropist, Tony Pallaro. I got a full scholarship to law school. At the very end, this was a beautiful position to be in. I said to the financial aid officer at Harvard, I said, do you have grant dollars? And she looks at me, she says, Mr. Jones, look out in that courtyard. I'm looking out the window with her. She says, see all these students? She says, they all have at that time $20,000 a year of loans. She goes, we're Harvard Law School. We don't have to give grants. So get this is this country boy. I looked up at her, I said, are you ever in Charlottesville? She said, well, occasionally I go through. I said, well, look me up the next time you come down. Because I'm gonna be a wahoo. That ended the conversation. Philanthropy changes lives. That's why I'm here with you today. I know I wouldn't be able to stand before you but for philanthropists. And I just told you about a few of them. There are others. But people's time, their treasure, their heart, and their money are why I'm here. Never doubt the power of philanthropy. In fact, it's been the most powerful thing in my life. So I want to thank you for all you've done and for all you will do. Because whether you know it or not, at the end of the day, it just changes lives. No question about it. Now, there's lots to celebrate, and you're all in the room. And so I want to thank you, UVA. The living wage piece is a big deal in my mind. It's one of the biggest deals we have to confront across the country. I tell people, all the time, the most powerful housing strategy is a living wage. That's really the most powerful one. And we've got a lot of work to do on it. And by the way, here, the anchor institution needs to lead. And so I'm so grateful that Jim and team have led on this. And there's more to come. But in addition to the good stuff, let me give you a couple of data points. We are in an area where the life expectancy of people who live here is 86.3 years. So if you grow up in this area of the city and the county, you're gonna live close to 90 years just by virtue of your census tracts. However, if you go, and then we're about 6 miles west, or no, I'll take that back. If you go 6 miles to the east, southeast of UVA, 5th Street, you know where I'm talking about. The life expectancy is 73. 6 miles apart and 13 years apart. Both children born at UVA's hospital. The difference, where they were raised. Just that simple. UVA, Charlottesville, not unique in this regard. Another data point for you. If you're born into poverty in Charlottesville, there are only 3%, let me see how best to say this, only 3% of the communities in the country offer you less of a chance of escaping that poverty than we do right here. Only 3%. The overwhelming share of folks who live in that census tract 6 miles from here are Black and brown. The overwhelming share of folks who are poor in this area are Black and brown. we got an invitation. We do not yet live in a place where the dream that no matter where you start in life, you could end up where you want to be if you just work hard and have a few breaks. We're not yet there. And oh, by the way, neither are most of the places where my company works. That's why we're there. But we can be there. And I've seen what other places are doing to advance that journey. And I'm going to share that with you, and then I'm going to get out of here. How am I doing? 19. I'm on 19, or I got 19 left? Because if so, I'm just getting started. I got 11 left? I can do it. I can do it. So let me tell you what places are doing who are aspiring to build a community of opportunity. And by the way, just to set the record straight, a community of opportunity is not a destination. It's a journey. You'll never get there, right? It's the journey that matters. People are focusing on a handful of things that we're seeing that are working. One, they're investing in people. The same way that the folks invested in me, there are communities that are investing in people. And one strategy that has had tremendous impact is something we call a financial opportunity center. And there are about 100 of them around the country. The nearest one here is in Richmond. We need one in Charlottesville. I'll come back to you on that because we'd like to be a part of helping with that. Basically, a financial opportunity center does three things. Through a coaching model, it offers first financial literacy coaching to residents. And the goal there is to meet that resident wherever he or she is and help them develop a budget which shows what they have to do to become net cash positive. It usually involves wrestling some debts to the ground that have been with that individual for years. The other goal, though, is to help that individual get a credit score so he or she can get on a pathway to a relationship with a financial institution and or hopefully home ownership. The second component of a financial opportunity center is to help the individual through this coaching model solve for usually three big issues related to being a productive worker: childcare, housing, and transportation in a place like this. At least those three. You also see a lot of folks helping with pulling down the earned income tax credit. And then the third lane of work in these financial opportunity centers is the actual workforce piece, helping people prepare for work actually in the community. So Toledo, Ohio has a financial opportunity center that is being sponsored by the hospital there. Well, the hospital is the largest employer, so they're preparing people to go to work in healthcare, getting them on a pathway to a certification or a license to be in the healthcare field. That combination of financial literacy, case management, and workforce together is a powerful bundle in helping people change their lives. And we are seeing people get on a pathway to a livable wage career who are from all walks of life, including, by the way, about a dozen of these financial opportunity centers only serve people who are coming out of prison. And so they'll have an added dimension of trying to help people expunge records and dealing with trauma and dealing with substance issues. But the rest of the core is there. This stuff works. It is an opportunity for us here in this region. The second focus we're seeing is on helping places transform or neighborhoods transform. And usually that is about housing. It's usually about preserving affordable housing, which is a big job to be done, just as big as producing new. You've got a lot of housing that right now is affordable, naturally occurring, or affordable because there are government restrictions that are at risk of becoming market rate, and as a result, displacing people. And so preserving affordable housing should be as much of a sense of mission as producing it. And so we see people producing, preserving, and protecting. Those are really what you see people doing. In addition, it's also not just housing, but community facilities. We have a big partnership with the NFL, which I love, where we go in and help poor communities build high quality fields of recreation. NFL has spent $50 million with us. We built about 360 fields. Poor neighborhoods need opportunities for high quality recreation, just like everybody else. The third focus we see is on organizations. And it is making sure you've got healthy, vibrant, growing not-for-profits and for-profits. Usually the biggest challenge is the capacity building on the not-for-profit side. But we see it across the board. And if you're being really intentional about it, we operate, for example, in Chicago, an Entrepreneur of Color Fund, where we focus exclusively on trying to help, it's largely women of color who are just starting in the business world and who need capital and technical assistance to find a market that's sustainable. The fourth area we see is people who wrestle with the issue of the role that race has played and continues to play in communities. Charlottesville is fraught with this, right? You know this. But I'm amazed. I was a law student for 3 years. I used to drive down Main Street all the time. I didn't know within a football's throw of Main Street there was a big public housing project. That ain't an accident. It was designed to be there, isolated and out of sight. We need to face up to that. And we need to understand that. And the places that are doing the best at this are places who are educating their citizens about how the place got to where it is and the role that bad stuff has played in the design. Charlotte is on a list similar to Charlottesville. Charlotte is 50 out of 50 of the top metropolitan places when it comes to economic mobility. They did a huge study and had a bunch of recommendations. Their overarching recommendation, warning, invitation was segregation has played a huge role in the challenges we have today. That was a big deal for Charlotte to actually admit that. But the process of healing and teamwork that it has actually engendered has been invaluable for our work. You've got an anchor institution here in the form of UVA, and the places that are really doing this work well are leveraging this anchor institution to be a part of the solution, just as Jim and team are doing. We've got a great opportunity. You've got new leadership all over the board in this town now. And so you've got a fresh chance to get folks working on this. Two other things, and I know what I got, a couple of minutes? Minute and a half? What kind of clock you got now? This is not the time for small ball. Not the time for small ball. You gotta go big in the things that you're trying to do. Pick big problems and big journeys to solve them. These problems will not be solved by playing small, by spreading money widely. The places that are doing it well, we're in the Bay Area. We have a $550 million fund for affordable housing there. That is now, I kid them all the time, $550 million in the Bay Area gets you 4 units of housing. But the point is, they didn't play small ball. They've pulled together a multi-sector group of folks, and we're raising a 500, and we'll go over that, by the way. We're working on the policy side and the investment side. T.S. Eliot in 1934 wrote a poem called Choruses from the Rock. And in the 6th chorus, now this is going to test, I bet there's some English professors, and I apologize, I know I got it wrong, but give me credit for being directionally right. But in the 6th chorus, he's got these lines, he's lamenting what he thinks is people turning away from God. In the sort of decay of our souls as we go through a tough time. And in the 6th chorus, he says, he says, people don't like what the church is saying to them. The church tells them facts that they don't want to hear. Church tells them to be good and avoid evil. He says, people try to turn away from that. He goes, they turn away from the church, basically, and they search for systems so perfect that no one needs to be good. They search for systems so perfect that no one needs to be good. Guess what? We don't have such a system. We never have had such a system. And it's the reason why philanthropy is so important, because what it does is brings together and inspires people to be good. And that's what we need today to solve these challenges. We need more people to be good for a longer period of time. Sustainably so, right? I think I see it in this room. I'm grateful to be with you. Thank you very much. This was a good question. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm supposed to do some questions now, so you got to help me stay on time. But thank you. That's very kind of you. My grandmother must have been somewhere around. All right. So I'm happy to try to take questions. I hope you will have questions. There was a lot on my 2-hour note card that I didn't get to. So hopefully I can get to it in the questions. Or did I put you to sleep? Oh, wait. Kate, that's not fair. Yeah, so interesting. So we are seeing people attack education on a number of different fronts. One is a real focus on 0 through 5, on early childhood education. So if you look at our portfolio, the largest probably asset class we have is housing. The second largest is early childhood centers, is us helping folks to build and expand pre-K. That's number one. A second piece that we're seeing is communities who are really eager to get charter schools. Now, charter schools in Virginia are still not in flavor, right, for a lot of reasons, and I get it. But what we're seeing is, and we only will fund public charter schools, and there are a bunch of other conditions, but the role that charter schools are playing, and particularly in communities of color who are feeling like they have no other viable quality options, is pretty big. And we're seeing that across the board. And then the third thing is what I was alluding to, which is this skills-based education for adults. If you look across just the state of Virginia, there are about 1 million people in Virginia who have some college courses, but not a degree yet. And if we just focus on that crew and helping them get some kind of credential at the higher ed level, whether it's 4 years or some certification or license beyond that, we would be the most educated state in the union. The most credentialed state in the union. What that would do for the economic prospects of the Commonwealth would be incredible. And so I would tell you that a big opportunity is adults who still haven't finished or haven't even aspired to getting some kind of higher education. And so that's where you see us spending a lot of time. Thank you for that question. That's great. Appreciate it.
Maurice, thank you for those words. Can you tell us more about what you're doing locally, you and LISC are doing locally here in Charlottesville?
That's a secret. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. So we just finished, where's Yolanda? There you go. We just finished the first chapter of a partnership with New Hill on a small area plan for, what do you call it, Vinegar Hill? Is that what we call it? Or Star Hill? Star Hill. For Star Hill. And we're excited about that. We are grateful to the council, to the manager whom I saw earlier for giving us an opportunity to put together a plan. And now we got to go to work. Now the real work comes, right? Which is trying to translate a plan into investment and action. And so that's what we are planning to do next. What I hope is it's the introduction of us into working in this community using the broad array of tools that we have. So financial opportunity centers and housing and small business work and safety work. I'd like to do all of that. We work a lot with hospitals and universities. In fact, hospitals are our fastest growing partners. I think there's plenty of social, it's not an accident that I pulled out life expectancies as a data point. That requires some social determinants of health work, and we'd like to do that here. So stay tuned. I hope that a year from now, we've got much more to talk about. Thanks. Yes, sir. All right. Oh, yes, hello? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you so much for what you shared with us today. You mentioned several different areas where you can get started, and you just talked about the New Hill project. I have two questions. One is also a reference to something you spoke about earlier, which was being good and being good for a long time. I'm wondering, how do we get our community to take on that model? And also, where would we start?
I'm probably going to finesse the second part. So I'll go to the second part. Where places have started is where they've been able to congeal enough of a multi-sector coalition to go to work in a big way. So I mentioned the Bay Area. The Bay Area was really clear. Housing was the biggest risk that they were feeling to the economic competitiveness of the area. Both the technology companies, the folks in communities who were worried about the displacement of communities of color, the local government who was feeling inadequate to the task of actually producing more supply. I mean, so there was a real consensus about this being a big problem to be solved. that goes to the heart of the competitiveness of the area. The question is, what are those consensus points here, right? And so that's something that the community needs to have a discussion about. A discussion that is inclusive, that includes residents, that includes the university, that includes nonprofits, that includes the business community. It needs to be inclusive. Where people have done that, they have actually unearthed the 2 or 3 places to go to work. And then it's a matter of finding the vehicles necessary to do the work and to keep people together. So the people in Charlotte reached out to us because they decided that particularly housing for individuals who are earning 30% of area median income was where they wanted to work. And they said to us, do you have any tools to help us? And so we put together basically a vehicle that's an investment vehicle that brings together a lot of folks, including the residents of the communities that they want to work, which, by the way, I want to make sure I'm real clear about this. You can't do things to people. That's not the sustainable way. You got to have participation from every place that you're trying to do work if you're going to have something sustainable, right? And you know this. In Charlottesville, if August 2 years ago taught us one thing, it taught us the need for more trust in the community. And so you got to have folks with you. But so they picked that area. Cincinnati picked small business. So that's a community conversation, and we're happy to try to be helpful in facilitating that, but that's a community conversation you need to have. So that's how you pick the first. The being good piece, look, this is the choir. Right? This is the choir. So I think you've got enough people here who are good and want to continue to be good for a long time. It's finding vehicles through which to get the work done. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Have you found any successful strategies in helping with the child care issue? Because I think that's what's holding so many people back.
Meaning the quality, the abundance, yeah. So, how much time you got? A minute. Wait a minute, who is that? I'll give you what we're seeing. It has to, this one is another theme. It has to be a collective effort, right? A collective effort that includes educating children from all walks of life in the same place. You need that for the economics of it. And I can talk to you more later about what we're seeing. Some of the most impressive, Flint, Michigan, which gets an incredibly tough rap, and rightly so because of the disgrace of the water issue there, has one of the most impressive early learning endeavors that I've seen. It took 3 years to come about, but they have one of the largest single child care centers I've seen anywhere in the country. So, but it required some serious teamwork. Here?
As a funder, I'm
That's
curious where you go for your dollars.
Ah, okay.
Corporate?
Why do you think I'm here? I go to you. No.
Corporate?
So we have large foundations, national, regional, local is one source. Believe it or not, the federal government invests about $40 million a year in our work. Don't tell them that, all right? That was a joke. That was definitely a joke. Banks are a big source of our funds because they have CRA requirements to invest in these communities. And frankly, we can do it better than they can and mitigate the risk better than they. So they invest in us. We're $1 billion company. So they got our balance sheet that they have, that they mitigate their risk on, and then we go out. So banks are a large part of both the debt and the equity. And we're a AA rated company, so we also raise capital on the capital markets. Those are the major places where we're going now. I think I got to get out of Dodge. Is that right? I got one more. Chris, it's all over you. Thank you all. I follow you, my friend. Okay.
Maurice, I just want to thank you for being with us today, for being in community with us today. We really appreciate you sharing your story and your wisdom and your experience. We have a little gift for you, so bear with us.
All right. So we know you are currently based in Norfolk, Virginia.
That's correct.
All right. So many people may not know this, but legendary civil rights leader and community organizer Ella Baker is a Norfolk, Virginia native. And she trained countless civil rights workers, including a young seamstress who went on to ignite the Montgomery bus boycott. And so we wanted to leave you with some letterpress words made at the Virginia Humanities Center for the Book here in Charlottesville by middle school student volunteers. I'll pull this.
Can you pull that off?
Yeah, pull this out. There we go. So thank you. Thank you. You can put that in the office.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks.
So thank you, everyone. Do not forget your flashlights. We will need them some year, maybe not next year. We look forward to seeing you next year, and have a great day.
Thank you.